Home Show Garden Pros, helping to turn your thumb green.
That's what we're doing for sure, turning thumbs green. And we don't, of course, mean literally green. It's a euphemism or expression describing people who are good at gardening. And so, we're gathering information, spreading it out with you here on Home Show Garden Pros. That's what we do on Wednesdays. Now we do it live via video format. And then on the weekends, on Saturday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., we do it on a radio show. And we love answering calls on that show. If you want to know more about that, homeshowgardenpros.com. Great website. In fact, we get all of our questions that we do here on the live show from the website. So there's that button there, the Ask a Pro button. You can do that. And Home Show Garden Pros is really cool. You'll notice that word pros, talking professionals. And we have a group of people from all over the Houston that are knowledge specialists in the gardening area. And we've done that by going to these amazing garden centers and recruiting their knowledge expert. And they're part of the show, they are the show, really. So it's great because they're always dishing out really great information. So just to kind of go around the map and tell you some of the places that are doing such a good job that we're so honored to have be part of this. We'll start southwest with Enchanted Gardens and Enchanted Forest down there, kind of bookending Richmond, Texas, both sides of it. Garden and forest, cool places. In Katy, we've got Nelson Nursery and Water Gardens right there in the heart of Katy. Really, if you're in Katy, this needs to be your go-to nursery. It is wonderful, great soil, great advice, great plants, and then all the water gardens. It's so cool, so cool. Kind of keep on going north, you get to 290 and then a little bit more, 249. That's where Plants for All Seasons is, just off 249. Again, great place there. Such a great plant selection, phenomenal. They actually brew their own compost tea, which is really, really cool. We'll keep kind of ticking around, and then we get up 45 north, just past Conroe, just past the Woodlands, not quite to Conroe. You've got Nature's Way Resources, huge garden center there, tons of plants, all the native plants you can imagine. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, you've got the Kingwood team, Warren Southern Gardens and Kingwood Garden Center, two incredible places, very different, both worth a visit, cool spots up there in Kingwood, and both falling under that Warren's name, so you know it's really high quality stuff. Here on the kind of video version of the show, we like to bring in knowledge experts, knowledge specialists from nonprofits, from people that are doing garden clubs, or they are a nonprofit dealing with urban gardens. Well, this week, the wonderful Renee Cummins, she is a rosarian with the American Rose Society, and she's a past president of our own Houston Rose Society. Hey, Renee.
Hey.
What's going on?
How are y'all?
We're doing great. Thanks for asking. All of us, you, me, the watchers, the listeners. Oh, look, I'm like way higher than you on the video. That's kind of fun. Anyway, what's going on? Any cool garden projects?
You know what? We sold our house and we're building a house on our farm, and I am rooting everything I can get my hands on, including a bunch of old garden roses. I've had great success. They're all blooming. I'm gardening on the 12th floor. Believe it or not, I have herbs and lettuce. And one morning I ate a grapefruit outside, and I filled a container with rose soil, and I stuck the 2 seeds in the container, and I have 2 little grapefruit trees coming up.
That
so
is
you never
awesome.
know.
Yeah, you never do. That's kind of very hopeful. The cool thing about grapefruits grown from seed is if freeze does freeze the top off of that tree, then the roots that grow will be the same grapefruit, the same yummy one if they make the fruit.
I've gotten so many Master Gardener questions about, well, my lemon tree froze, but this is coming up from the ground, and it's grafted, so it's not going to be good.
Right. Yeah. That's a tough thing about grafting. A lot of good advantages, but that's one big bad advantage. So while you're here, we've had a lot of questions coming in these last few weeks via our website and our Facebook page. So we curate a few of them. There were some rose ones, which is kind of cool. So we're just going to kind of go through these. Our format here, for those of you who are new to Home Show Garden Pros, is that we like to answer questions. That's our jam. That's our thing. And so if you're watching this, there's a message board, a little place to put comments. Please put a question there. I can assure you, if you have a question, someone else has a question. And what's awesome is that Renee knows the answer, and maybe I can help too. So that's really good stuff that can happen. We start with these kind of 4 email questions that we've got, but we'd love to answer your questions. That's what we do. So I'll keep an eye on the comment section on YouTube, on Facebook, on wherever this video is showing, and we will definitely answer your question. So Renee, you ready for question 1?
I'm ready.
That's great. My first question for you is, has the Rose Society started meeting again, and how can people get involved?
We're doing Zoom meetings, and you don't even have to be a member to Zoom into the meeting. And we are confident that maybe by fall we'll be meeting. We're a little leery about the vaccine, people that aren't vaccinated and everybody not wearing masks. We're still holding our breath to see what happens. But the summer is not really our busy time because roses kind of go dormant because we get so much, the ground temperature just raises so much and your blooms get so much smaller. So look for us in about October and I'll keep y'all posted. We'll blast it all over Facebook and Home Show Garden Pro when we have our first meeting.
Heck yeah. We'll get you on here for a special first meeting episode. So that'll be great.
That sounds great. That sounds great. And everybody's been stuck at home. So they're not commuting. They're not wasting an hour every day, both ways. People are growing spinach in their yard. They're growing lettuce. They're growing roses. They're growing onions. They're growing lettuce. I mean, it's like this rebirth of home gardening because everybody's home all the time.
Absolutely.
So I think it's kind of nice. And I think people think you have to spray chemicals and you don't. You can grow carrots in your backyard, especially here. We don't even this year we got a freeze, but usually we don't get a freeze, and you can grow herbs and stuff all year long. So people are figuring it out, and the nurseries are sold out of everything. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but it's been good for business.
Yeah, it has been good for business, and a lot of these are just great locally owned businesses that are doing a lot of wonderful support in their neighborhood, owned by neighbors, employing neighbors, and then selling to neighbors. It's really the ideal capitalism, if you will. So will you tell us a little bit also, so you're also part of a group called Rose Wranglers that is so cool. And it's like, this is the kind of thing I want more people doing and thinking of. It's so fun. We need to get like veggie wranglers and
we're
fruit
called
tree
the
wranglers.
Texas Rose Wrestlers.
Wrestlers. Okay. I always say wranglers, don't I?
The biggest rose in the world is in New Mexico, and it's a gigantic yellow rose that's been growing over this building for like 200 years.
Oh wow!
And I'm going to tell you something. That rose has never been sprayed for bugs. It's disease resistant, drought resistant. Nobody's taking care of that. So there's this group of people that go out into the countryside and find these roses that are growing in people's yards or on top of their houses or on an old barn that's caved in, and they take cuttings. And it's easy to root those roses. They're real hardy. And Mike Shoup at Antique Rose Emporium, he's kind of our president, cheerleader, I don't know what you call it, but there's a very active rose rustler group, and they have cutting exchanges, and none of these roses are patent. They're all like 80 or 100 years old.
That's so awesome.
Oh yeah, and they're hardy roses. They've never been sprayed. I grow them all in my yard. I don't spray anything. I got cuttings at the Rose Rustlers Exchange. We did it this year outside, so everybody was compliant with COVID. And I have about 15 roses on my patio on the 12th floor that I rooted. And I really didn't have much experience in rooting them before. I just buy a little small plant, put it in the ground with the rose soil. I knew what to do, but I didn't really know. Rooting is like a whole different ballgame. And so I got some plastic pots and garden soil. I root everything in rose soil because it has sand, so it drains well.
Right.
Got some rooting hormone, and I had really good luck. I think some roses are easier to root than others. That's my personal opinion.
Well, sure. Vigorous growers, kind of assertive one. They're like people, some put down roots a lot easier than others. And some are
They've been out
thornier
there
than
80
others.
years. Yeah, they've been out there 80 years with no spraying. They're hardy.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we encourage you to ask us the question in the comments, and we're going to jump into our first email question. All right, here we go. Question number 1. This one is from Debbie. Debbie's first question is not really her question. She says, has anyone ordered plants from one of the online nurseries? I want a specific drift rose and can't find them in Houston. And then I'm wondering about some options besides drift roses. So, her first question is, anyone ordered, I don't know who anyone is, but anyone ordered plants from one of the online nurseries?
just like everything else, it's like supply and demand.
Mm,
Like Target predicts how many people are going to buy a certain product, and that's how much they order. And nobody predicted this freeze or the pandemic, which both increased demand for plants.
right.
So pretty
Absolutely.
much everybody sold out of everything.
Mm,
And I don't really order plants online because we have
yeah,
so many good resources like right in our backyard. I mean,
absolutely.
Antique Rose Emporium and K&M Roses, Congo. I mean, everybody's got great roses here, so I don't really order online. But there are a lot of choices. I listened to a Master Gardener online program today about rosemary, and you forget there's a creeping rosemary that blooms. So that would be a perfect cover, ground cover with some. It would give you some little white flowers. It's kind of nice. And blue days is not the most popular plant. I like it. It's a flat blue flower with a white center, and it's cornflower blue, so the little white center really pops.
Mm-hmm.
And the leaves are not bright green; they're grayish green. So it really stands out in your landscaping.
Mm,
It's hardy. It'll take the Texas heat. It does need drainage, so if you're going to put it right in the ground, I'd mix in some rose soil or sand or something, or you're going to get it's going to rot. But
mm.
anyway, blue daisy is good. Sweet William, all lantana is not 5 feet tall. You can get a little shorter version of lantana, and then you can attract pollinators. Lantana grow on a rock, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I used to have it all over my yard, and we had monarch butterflies.
Mm,
So that was kind of nice. And creeping William, they're dianthus. They come in every color.
mm.
They're sturdy little plants. You can get a lot of color with just a few dianthus because they'll multiply.
That's so
So
great.
I would go with whatever your local nursery has because they're only going to sell things that grow in your area.
And I
You
like
know,
that. I'm getting every week a lot of updates from local garden centers, nurseries, mom and pop, incredible destination kind of garden places. Our co-op members,
oh
and
yeah,
they're selling a lot of plants really fast, but they're also getting a lot of plants in really quickly. A great time to go is late in the week, like Thursday, Friday. It's a good time to go because you're beating the weekend madness, but you're also kind of getting a fresh delivery in. But I love what you said. The idea is if you can remain flexible and kind of switch your plants, maybe you've always grown periwinkles and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna try blue days this time. That's a really great thing to do, just to kind of stay flexible. There's so many great plants, and if you can just stay local when you shop for them, that'll be a great way to kind of find success. So Home
your
Show
local
Garden
nurseries
Pros.
have your local nurseries have things that grow in your area, and then somebody,
Yes.
they'll. I take Master Gardener questions, and they send me some picture of something, and I'm like, I have to like look it up on Wikipedia. Like I've never seen this. Not that I know everything about gardening, but I promise you, if that grew here, they would have it at Enchanted Gardens, and they don't.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
They're like, hey, do you know where I can find Alaskan pearl trees? And you're like, Alaska. Go to
yeah,
Alaska. Yeah.
yeah.
So just kind of really Debbie's question about drift roses. What's your take on drift roses?
I like drift roses. We have so much humidity here. There is kind of a battle because they're so close to the ground, and
Mm,
the air circulation isn't perfect. I really didn't have a place for them at our house. I might have one at the new house. I don't know, but old garden roses are just so hardy and
right.
easygoing, and you can leave them. That's
Okay.
kind of my jam.
That's cool. So are there any like real low old garden roses you can think of?
There are some that you can keep trimmed. I mean,
Yeah, that's
every old
great.
garden rose is going to be almost like a rambler. They're going to, keep on going. But some are shorter bushes. Louis Philippe makes a great hedge. I
Mm,
mean, it's an old French rose, and you
yeah.
can let it go and it grow into a gigantic bush. But I used to have it as a hedge. I had like 4 or 5 bushes in a row, and people always ask me what it is. And it's like a little French rose. Oh, a French rose. I want that. I got it at Antique Rose Emporium.
Yeah. Ooh, fancy French.
It's French. It's
Yeah.
French. It's Louis
It's
Philippe. But, the history of roses, they came from China to Malmaison in Paris, and
mm,
Napoleon, Josephine got Napoleon's army to deliver them. So every rose is either it's a French rose because that's where they all were. That's where they all came from China. So a lot of them have like Souvenir de ma maison. They have French names, but they do great here. It has nothing
Right.
to do with being acclimatized to, French weather.
Yeah, that's great information. Actually, that's kind of something I hadn't forgot about. I
And
have a
this is Rose trivia. There's a book that you know, Josephine had all the time and money in the world, so she got a famous artist to paint all of the roses that were in her garden. And there's a book of all of those paintings, and it's kind of interesting if you're into rose trivia, you know.
yeah, rose. Okay, I mean that's really.
I happen to have that book. Imagine that.
I need to take notes for next time I wind myself up in rose trivia, because
And
a
they're
lot of
all
plant
hardy.
trivia I do pretty good, but the rose trivia not as good.
Oh yeah, they're hardy. They're not grafted roses. They're not hybrid teas. They're the ones that'll stay and bloom, all year.
Awesome. Hey, well, we have a question on the comments one. It's not the one I've got stored with me, but it's super fuzzy. All right, here we go. It's from Pierre. It says, I have a Pope John Rose ordered from Jackson Perkins. It was fine, but it finally died. I took it out, but what I have are some leftovers from its root system that is now growing where the tree used to be. Will they ever become a regular rose bush? It's a pretty good question there. Thanks, Pierre.
JP2, as we refer to John Paul II, it's hot here, and JP2 does not do great here. It needs good drainage, and you kind of have to baby it. I tend a rose garden at a Catholic church, and they wanted JP2, and I tried to talk them out of it, and it's in Finette, and it flooded. I gave the rose a little hope anyway, but maybe I would, give it some Mills Magic and Osmocote and see what happens. But see if you can find a Catholic name you like better, or maybe a little more hardy rose,
Yeah, maybe that's not why Pierre's growing that one specifically, but yeah, that's
JP2
really great
was
thought.
The Pope forever, and everyone loves him, but they should have picked a little more hardy rose.
Yeah.
They should have called Mike Shoup or something and picked a old garden rose or something.
Well, maybe
because it's very popular.
So maybe we can do that. We'll call him up and have a JP2 2. We'll do a John Paul II 2, and that'll be good.
That's good. Or we can get one for the new Pope.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that'll happen anyway. All right, we're going to go on to question 2 now from the emails. So here we go. We got religious there real quick. Curve back from that. It's a gardening show. Okay. Heidi asks, as summer approaches, are there any special things I should do for my rose and veggie gardens?
Not really. I wouldn't put anything new in the ground after, the first part of June here, because the ground just gets so hot. But I did have an herb garden, and I could grow Swiss chard and carrots, fennel, all year round. And, that they were kind of easy, and they were low maintenance. I also had a gigantic bay leaf tree. People don't think about growing a bay leaf tree, but we had one at our other house. It was taller than the second story. So when we moved, I bought a little stick at Buchanan's, and it was like an 8-foot tree by the time we moved. And I had dried these bay leaves. Everybody I know has a bag of dried bay leaves from my tree.
Not everyone.
Well, I can arrange it. I can arrange it. And I'm from Southeast Texas, like Southwest Louisiana. Everybody cooks red beans and gumbo, and every recipe I have requires, a bay leaf. So I'm just, those are my people. We just need bay leaves.
My old house, the one before this one, and I keep in mind I moved in 2009. I still have bay leaves from the tree we left there at the old house. Because that's how many we had stored. We freeze dried them, we froze some, all that stuff. I think I have like 6 or 7 left.
Ours was kind of a bush, and it was growing over the driveway, and my husband just trimmed it, with the pruners, and I just dried everything for months. People got a branch of, the bay leaf tree when they came over.
That's great. That's so great. So on the veggie bed front and the rose bed front, I really would double check, make sure that your mulch is nice and thick, 2 inches, something like that. If you're using pine straw, you can put another inch down. And that will really help kind of protect the roots from the brutal heat. If we have a dry stretch or a very wet stretch, both the mulch can be helpful for both of those things. So that might be the only thing I would do. Now, on veggie beds, if you're growing fast-growing summer vegetables, you got to keep fertilizing, and that's where Microlife comes in, or even topping off with some compost. So that's kind of the
Microlife
only.
is great. And I grew some little yellow pear-shaped small like cherry tomatoes.
Yeah, the little upside down balloons.
Your bush and plant will be burned up from the sun, and you will get 40 tomatoes every day. So
With those little yellow bells.
Yeah, those little yellow ones, and it's
Yeah.
like just any minute, they're going to croak. And then all during July and August, you get 20, 30 tomatoes every day. They're good.
Those ones are funny because they fall off the tree real fast. So you can like just put a little towel down there and shake it, and you get a bunch of them. So I like those. Those are good. They're no Juliet's, but they're pretty delicious.
Juliet's my best friend's name, and I bought Juliet tomatoes years ago because I thought, oh, I'll just try that, and I am hooked like everybody.
They're wonderful, delicious, key fob-sized cherry tomatoes. They're really great stuff. Awesome. Well, hope that helps. What was that? Was Heidi? Hope that helps you, Heidi. Here's our next question. This one's from Bill. Oh, Bill wants us to read this on Facebook. So here you go, Bill. Your dreams are coming true. All right. Bill says, could you and your guest suggest 3 pretty and edible plants? So I'm just going to say that we're going to go with 3 plants that are edible and pretty. So, now let's leave off ones we've already said, like the bay leaf. So we can take turns. We can have a competition and see who has the best ones, and we'll see who wins. So
I'm going to tell you this.
Okay, great.
my friend Pam Smith grows okra in her front yard, and it's beautiful, and it grows all summer.
Those flowers are breathtaking.
The leaves, and she has that maroon Aggie okra, and she has green okra. And I'm telling you, the first time I went to her house, I was like, oh my God, she's okra in her front yard. This woman is crazy. It's beautiful. It's really, she incorporated it into the landscape,
Right. Yeah.
So, and it would definitely, okra doesn't get going until it really gets hot. So I'd say okra is my first,
That's a great one. That's a really wonderful one. And, they're related to mallow plants, which are related to hibiscus. And so if that tells you a little bit about how just fabulous their flower is, then that's it. I'm going to go with one, my favorite flower, if anybody asks me, and it's the purple passion flower. Wonderful fruit. You can make a tea from the flowers or the leaves, and it's kind of a relaxing tea. And also, it's a great habitat plant for butterflies. So the purple passion flower vine is one that is really gorgeous. Grow it on a trellis, likes a lot of sun, can do a little bit of shade too, which is kind of nice. But man, you get really amazing flowers. Like these are flowers you're going to take close-up pictures of on a regular basis. Gorgeous flowers.
Oh, nice. Nice.
But don't grow it in a bed with a bunch of shrubs. It'll just grow all over the shrub. So it's a warning, just a warning there. Just a warning. Okay. All right. So go ahead.
Only the strong survive, though. Maybe that's not a bad thing.
Sure. Yeah. Only straw like that. That's oftentimes, though, it seems like that, sometimes the strong they're not the nicest. Okay. Your turn. One more for you. This is round number 2. I'm going to say you won round number 1, but here we go. Round number 2. So a pretty edible plant.
I don't know. Carrots make great top. The top of the carrots is so pretty, and they have those what I call designer carrots now. And that Renee Seeds, that brand.
Yeah.
They have little miniature carrots, and they grow quick, and they're delicious. And the tops of them, I think, are kind of nice looking. They're kind of lacy,
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'd go for the carrots just because they're easy to grow, and it's kind of fun if you have kids. Let them plant the carrots. They don't lose interest by the time the carrots come, and you can pull them up when they're small and wash them off with the hose and eat them. They're kind of nice.
That's great. Yeah, that's really awesome. So good one there. That's good for you got a little open space where anybody can see it. You get a little lacy leaf popping on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, my next one is called Okinawa spinach. So this really pretty. It's a edible shrub. So you basically, just like spinach, tastes just like spinach. You can eat all the leaves, but the underside of this kind of shrub is purple. So the bottom of every single leaf is purple, and so when the wind blows, you got this really kind of like
cool.
elaborate show. Yeah, and man, I'm gonna bring you some because they're so easy to grow from cutting. So it's like
that sounds good. It sounds like Malabar spinach, which everybody grows, and I don't think you can kill it, and it'll last
Yeah.
through the heat, the drought, the flood, you name it.
It's it's really not anything like Malabar spinach because that's a vine, and this one is a legit shrub, like like a boxwood. I mean, you can keep it that sort of shape. The leaves are way different than that, but yeah. And then
Sounds
also
like
it
it's
tastes
that hardy.
yeah, it's very hardy, and it likes some shade too. So it's another one that you could plant in shade. If you got a veggie bed in shade, this would work, and it's so pretty, dark glossy green with that purple bottom. Woo! All right, so
And you know what
nice,
else is?
nice.
I mean, fig trees are great. They
Yeah,
grow in the hottest part of the summer, so I'm gonna go for that too. Not really a garden plant, but
no,
we had a
it's
fig
great.
tree at our house was like 80 years old, and we'd get
That's
a
awesome.
gazillion figs. They were beautiful, but you have to cover it with a net because the
Mm.
mockingbirds get the figs as soon as they appear on the bush.
There is one little trick that you can do with figs. Figs are cool. So in landscaping design, there's this idea of a specimen plant. So it's like something that has interests. And the figs, with their leaf shape alone, are interesting. And so if you were able to grow it up into a tree shape or at least design the space so it's more of a shrubby thing. But so if my fist, I'm checking the video here, my fist is the fig on a twig, right?
Uh huh.
Once it starts to dip a little bit, that's when it's ripe. That's when the tree's done with it. Same thing like when tomatoes color, the plant is done when the fig dips a little bit. So once it dips a little bit, that's how you know you can pick it. It may not have color changed at all, but the tree is
Oh,
done, and
really?
that is before the squirrels and the birds get in there and start messing with your crop. So just keep that
That's
in mind.
interesting. Ours was like two bushes that had grown together, and
Ooh,
I got two nets and sewed them together and like attached them at the ground. Like it was like a science project keeping the birds and the squirrels away
sure.
from those figs. But we were successful, and I love figs. They're my
Oh my
favorite.
gosh,
They're
yeah.
easy to preserve.
I love figs also. Absolutely. Okay, so my last one, I'm gonna go with another shrub, a little bit taller, kind of upright shrub. It's called Grumi chama, and it makes in Brazil they call them. They're speaking Portuguese, obviously, but they call them grape trees, and they make this really dark, smoky, delicious berry. Again, they love shade and they love irrigation. So if you got a little bit of a wet spot in shade, which a lot of you do, Groomy
Oh
Chama
yeah.
is a great one. So start asking your garden centers if they've got them, and the more of us ask, the more they'll start bringing in. But they're an awesome, awesome shrub for shade and moisture. So Groomy
Nice.
Chama.
And you know what else? Where our farm is, they grow mayhaws wild, and the mayhaw
Yeah.
jelly is the bomb. So you could probably grow a mayhaw here. You probably have to do the same thing about the birds. Make sure you get to it before the birds. But mayhaws are weeds in East Texas, and the soil there is not perfect. So I
No,
can
that's
imagine
true.
that it wouldn't grow here.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. That's an interesting thought. A lot of times, those native wild plants, they just don't want to be cultivated. They're rascals. A lot of people that have tried mayhaw have failed, but if you can kind of give it a little bit of a natural feel, I think you could probably get some success. All right. Well, that was what a hearty question there by Bill.
I know.
Hopefully Bill's watching. Congratulations, Bill. All your wildest dreams have come true. All right, on to
We'll
the
come
third
see you. But
question.
next year at this time, we'll go tour Bill's garden and see what he's got going.
Oh, he better have all 7 of those plants we mentioned. 4. 4 plants? 4. Here's the fourth question. Here we are. I was like, 4 plants. We did 4 more.
Okay.
Okay, this is from Jeff. I'm building a bed from scratch. Got any advice? All right, well, okay. Nice open question from Jeff. Go for it.
Make sure what are you going to put in that bed. You want morning sun. Hot afternoon sun in Houston, Texas is brutal,
Mm-hmm.
starting in June. So figure out what you're going to plant. You need a water source. Don't put it in the back corner of your yard if it's way
Yeah.
across from the water hose, unless you have a sprinkler system.
Oh my gosh, that'll fail for so many reasons back in the back corner. Just so many
I
reasons.
grew a rose on my patio in a big pot. It was called Double Delight. It's a beautiful rose. It's the
Sounds
best rose in my garden because it was right next to the water hose. So at night, if I was
nice.
taking the garbage out or something, I could stop and water it real quick.
Yeah.
The water there was, I would never drag that water hose all the way across the yard to water it. But since it was there, it got a
Yeah.
lot of water. So it's something to think about. And if you're making a raised bed, Houston has zero drainage in our native soil. So I use row soil or potting soil mixed with some sand. So you have some drainage. I would think about doing something like that, even to plant tomatoes or, lantana, a gardenia, anything. I would add some sand so you get some drainage.
So maybe follow up for Jeff is let us know what kind of garden you want to grow, what kind of plants you want to grow. But then it sounds like when it comes down to it, use great soil. That's the one place that you do not want to skimp is the soil. You're hearing Renee. She's making miracles out of these antique roses. I'm saying this Okinawa, there's vegetables. You got seeds. You can save some money on the plants, right? Now, a lot of times when you buy local, you have better plants, but do not skimp on the soil. You got to get good soil.
If you get the good soil, you could throw a peanut down there and probably get a peanut bush, or something. I mean, it's just easy. We renovated a 100-year-old house, and the backyard was the parking lot for the plumber and the electrician, and everything. And there was beer tabs and junk all over the place. And so when we finished, we scraped the backyard off. I don't know how deep, I forgot, and had loads of road soil from Nature's Way. That's the entire backyard.
Wow. I'm sure that it is just thriving.
Oh, you can grow anything there. It was a beautiful yard. And even the grass, is greener. And I had great roses. We planted a pine tree. We planted a red maple. The bay laurel went crazy, and it's just, I think it's probably a shortcut in the beginning because then you don't have to amend your soil, feed it. We get a flood, I use azomite and everything pops right back up,
Well,
I would highly recommend it if you're building a new house or if you have a small front yard or something, go visit Nature's Way. And his story is interesting. The whole place is interesting, and he has great plants out there, and they're all native.
Yeah, that is so cool. And all of his employees in the garden center are so passionate about plants. They're a joy to talk to also. So that's a great thought. Get your soil and your plants. Wonderful.
And he buys, there's some Dole processing fruit place, and he buys all of their waste, which is what he composts for, his compost in his soil. Yeah. I mean, he should give tours for gardeners of that place. I love that place. Susan and I went out there, and he let us stand in his digger. It's like 10 feet tall or something. Susan and I look like little ants in the front of his digger. It's one of my favorite gardening pictures.
Susan Kelly. She's her church has a really cool garden they're designing and putting in community garden.
You know what? She and I just talked about that, and it seems like they're doing all kind of things. They're going to Casa Juan Diego this week, and they're putting in gardens all over the place. She's kind of got it going on. She's my partner in crime. Nice. In all of the I find some Greg Grant speaking somewhere, and she's the driver and I'm the navigator.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well,
it'll be interesting to see that garden, and that garden is right at the Heights in the middle of that boulevard. So I think that'll get a lot of foot traffic too. It should be a nice garden.
For sure. Well, we are going to go to our special video segment here as we discuss growing your green thumb. And Sherry here has got some interesting plants with some interesting advice. So over to you, Sherry. Maybe people have told you have a black thumb or you kill everything you grow. Well, we've got some really great plants here for you. So these are bromeliads or air plants. Sherry, these are so cool.
Yeah, and super easy to grow. So like you said, for the black thumb, it's really hard to hurt these guys. So basically put them inside on a counter or in a vase like this, and you just mist them once a week and feed them with a bromeliad or tillandsia food, just like this. And yeah, I mean, just super low maintenance.
Bromeliads make great gifts because literally someone can just put them on their desk. Now they don't grow on desks in nature, they actually will bond to a tree.
Right, they anchor themselves onto a tree, like in the rainforest. You would find these growing up into the trees. And they pull all their nutrients out of the air, so that's how they grow.
So cool. Do you like my advanced scientific comment about how they don't grow on desks in nature?
Well, and everyone has bromeliads on their desk, and they do so well. They do well here outside because we have so much humidity.
Yeah. I love them. They're one of the things that I told my daughters, always get me these for gifts. You wondering what to give me? Give me a nice little container with a bromeliad. I am good to go. So Sherry,
They're
thanks
low
for that great.
maintenance.
They're so low maintenance. It's awesome. Well, thanks so much for kind of dishing out great information. Always have a blast when you're on, Renee. Great job. And those
Thanks
of
for
you out there,
calling.
oh yeah, grow a rose. We got advice for you. They're beautiful, great for cut flowers. A lot of joy in your heart, and it's okay to get scratched by a rose bush every once in a while. So
You know what? Roses get a bad rap because people think you got to spray them, and they don't want chemicals in their yard, and they're really not like that at all.
Not at all.
We bought a house and it had a rose garden, and I was working, and I was like, no way, I like to garden, but you got to be kidding me. Roses, forget it. And then she signed me up for the Rose Society, and the newsletter started showing up, and they're all old garden roses from Antique Rose Emporium. So then I met Mike Shoup, and I'm the president of the Rose Society. What can I say?
Sure. It's a natural progression. Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for being on here. Thanks for all the Home Show Garden Pros. Thanks you for watching. Couldn't do it without everybody who's paying attention to us. So we really appreciate it. Always working to give great advice, and the advice will continue tomorrow. Home Show Radio has their live, and they talk home improvement. We will do a little bit of gardening on there, but also this Saturday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., we're answering gardening questions. John Ferguson will be there to answer your questions. So give us a call. Tune in. Home Show Garden Pros on Sports Radio 610. Talk to you later. Get those green thumbs a-going. Maybe people have told you have a black thumb.